Okay, let's jump straight into this explainer because there's a good chance you are reheating these exact foods every single day without having any idea about the hidden risks. Seriously, what you don't know about tossing those everyday leftovers into the microwave could be doing silent, cumulative damage to your cells. We all kind of just assume that if food is heated thoroughly enough, it's automatically safe to eat, right? Well, that assumption is actually costing lives. Oh, and definitely stick around until the end because the very last food we're going to cover, it absolutely shocks most people.
To put things into perspective, just think about this staggering proportion for a second. 1 in 6. That is the number of all cancer cases worldwide that researchers now directly associate with dietary factors. And we aren't just talking about what you eat. This includes how you store it, how you consume it, and specifically how you reheat it. Poor dietary habits are literally the second leading modifiable risk factor for cancer globally, sitting right behind tobacco use.
So, the absolute most crucial takeaway here is that safe cooking does not equal safe reheating. When you cook a meal for the first time, the heat produces these really predictable, manageable reactions. Proteins unfold, starches gelatinize, all the good stuff. But the second you put those leftovers back under the heat, entirely different, unstable chemical reactions kick off. We're talking about completely silent molecular changes that you can't see, you can't smell, and you definitely can't taste. So let's look at the chemistry of reheating. To really grasp these hidden dangers, we need to quickly break down 3 specific molecular mechanisms of food degradation before you even think about opening your fridge again.
The first mechanism we have to look at is oxidation. When your leftovers are just sitting there in storage, the fats and proteins are exposed to oxygen, which makes them chemically unstable. Then, when you blast them with heat a second time, these already damaged molecules break down even further into lipid peroxides and malondialdehyde. These are highly toxic byproducts, well documented in the scientific literature to literally damage your DNA.
Moving on to the second mechanism, which is the formation of advanced glycation end products, or AGs. Now, we all absolutely love the Maillard reaction. It's that beautiful process that gives cooked food its rich, savory flavor and that perfect brown crust. But when proteins and sugars are repeatedly exposed to high heat during the reheating process, that exact same reaction goes terribly wrong. It pumps out these AGs, which trigger chronic inflammation, a massive biological driver for cancer development. The third mechanism is nitrite conversion. Definitely keep this specific chemical pipeline in your back pocket, because it is exactly what makes one of our absolute healthiest vegetables highly toxic. Basically, while naturally nitrate-rich foods just sit chilling in your fridge, bacteria convert those healthy nitrates into nitrites. When reheated, those nitrites transform into nitrosamines, which the World Health Organization strictly classifies as probable or confirmed carcinogens.
Okay, so we're about to explore exactly how this plays out in real life, with rice, chicken, and spinach. But I've got to ask you, what do you think the dangerously misunderstood fourth food is? Make a mental guess right now, because I promise you, the final food on our list catches almost everyone off guard. Even folks who pride themselves on eating a perfectly clean, pristine diet get tripped up by this one.
All right, let's get into foods 1 and 2, rice and chicken. We're going to see how all this deep molecular science translates into real-world risks with 2 of the most heavily prepped and reheated foods on the planet.
Food number 1 is cooked rice. I mean, over 3 billion people rely on rice every single day, and millions of us reheat our leftovers without a second thought. But here's the kicker. The actual danger doesn't even come from the microwave itself. It happens while that perfectly innocent-looking rice is just sitting in your refrigerator, right between the first and second heating. Here's the exact chain of events. First, this entirely natural bacterium called Bacillus cereus actually survives your initial boiling or steaming process. Then, as the rice cools down and sits in the fridge, this bacteria has a field day and multiplies rapidly. Now here's where people get confused. You can totally microwave that rice and kill the bacteria, sure, but the reheating completely fails to destroy the heat-resistant toxins they've already left behind. Those toxins survive the heat and enter your digestive system completely intact.
So, what's the cancer connection? Well, these specific bacterial toxins, known as cereulide, can literally cause mitochondrial dysfunction inside your cells, which is a major early step in malignant cellular transformation. Plus, repeatedly heating starchy foods cranks up the formation of acrylamide, a known probable carcinogen. To protect yourself, the fixes are simple. Cool your cooked rice within 1 hour, eat it within 24 hours, and absolutely positively never reheat it more than once.
Let's transition to food number 2, cooked chicken. It's the absolute gold standard for healthy, lean proteins, right? Fitness influencers and dietitians literally build entire meal prep empires around it. But hitting animal muscle tissue with high heat a second time initiates a really aggressive protein oxidation.
This oxidation leads straight to the formation of heterocyclic amines, or HCAs. These are incredibly reactive compounds. Once they're inside you, your own liver enzymes metabolize them into compounds that can literally bind directly to your DNA and produce genetic mutations. HCAs are extensively researched dietary carcinogens, and they are directly associated with an increased risk of colorectal and pancreatic cancers. Considering pancreatic cancer has a 5-year survival rate of only about 11%, this is something we really have to take seriously.
So how do we safely handle our Sunday meal prep? Honestly, the absolute best way to protect yourself is to enjoy your leftover chicken completely cold. Toss it in a salad or a wrap. If you absolutely must have it warm, use the lowest effective temperature possible. Don't blast it beyond safe internal temperatures, and whatever you do, try to avoid rapid microwaving. Nuking it on high creates uneven, oxidative hotspots that just skyrocket those dangerous chemical reactions.
Now for foods 3 and 4, spinach and that shocking final reveal. Let's start with a leafy green that literally every cardiologist on Earth recommends, before we pull the curtain back on the fourth food that catches everyone by surprise.
Food number 3 is spinach and other leafy greens. Look, spinach is an undeniable superfood. It's packed to the brim with beneficial, naturally occurring nitrates that do wonders for your cardiovascular health and blood pressure. When you eat it fresh, it is fantastic for you. But the second you store it and try to reheat it later, the whole game changes. Remember that nitrite conversion we talked about earlier? This is where it happens. While your leftover spinach is sitting in the fridge, harmless natural bacteria on the leaves are busy converting all those super healthy nitrates into nitrites. When you hit it with heat a second time, it forces those nitrates to react with amino acids, forming nitrosamines. The European Food Safety Authority has even issued formal warnings about this exact process. These nitrosamines are heavily linked to gastric, esophageal, and colorectal cancers. It is a devastating irony, isn't it? One of the healthiest foods on Earth becomes carcinogenic just because of a completely normal storage habit. But the fix is beautifully simple. Eat your leafy greens immediately after you cook them. Just don't refrigerate cooked spinach with the plan of reheating it later. If you absolutely have to store it, keep it in an airtight container for a maximum of 6 hours and strictly eat those leftovers cold.
All right, we have arrived at the final food. It's a nutritional powerhouse that turns highly toxic under secondary heat. Were you able to figure it out? Think about your typical quick breakfasts, or maybe something you boil in batches for the week.
Yep, it's eggs. By pretty much every nutritional standard we have, eggs are the complete package. But reheating them, especially if they're scrambled or hard-boiled, sets off a really overlooked, disastrous chemical chain reaction. When you reheat eggs at a high temperature, the already oxidized fats sitting in the yolk undergo a secondary lipid oxidation at a massively accelerated rate. This rapid secondary lipid oxidation forms these nasty little compounds called oxystols. Basically, they're oxidized forms of cholesterol. And oxystols are genotoxic. That means they can literally snap your DNA strands and initiate cancer development. On top of all that, the excessive reheating causes abnormal protein cross-linking, which makes the eggs incredibly hard to digest. That alone can lead to persistent oxidative stress in your intestinal lining, which we know is a major mechanism in colorectal cancer. The takeaway? Eat your eggs fresh, or if you boil them, store them in their shells and eat them cold.
If we zoom out for a second and summarize everything we've unpacked in this explainer today, we've got 4 completely normal, everyday foods, 4 wildly distinct biological mechanisms ranging from bacterial toxins to nitrosamine conversion, and clear, undeniable risks to your cells. Again, the goal here isn't fear-mongering. This is just rigorous, peer-reviewed food biochemistry that you deserve to know. You absolutely do not need to be afraid of your food. You just need to implement a few simple, evidence-based behavioral tweaks in the kitchen. Grab a good food thermometer and start gently reheating your meals below 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Whenever you can, choose a low-temperature oven over a microwave so you don't get those uneven oxidative hotspots. Never, ever reheat any food more than once. And honestly, just try to portion your meals carefully so you avoid having leftovers altogether when possible. So I really have to ask, which of these 4 foods shocked you the most? Was it learning about the meal prep chicken, or maybe those morning eggs? Let me know. And please, if you found this valuable, subscribe to Healthy Tomorrow for more simple, science-based health tips that could genuinely protect you and your family. Share this knowledge with someone you love, take control of what happens in your kitchen, and until next time, stay curious and stay healthy.